go. All right, you guys, welcome to Thursday morning virtual coffee real estate mastermind. My name's Debbie Morrow, for those of you who I haven't met before, and I'm here with my business partner, Ray.
Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for joining us. We're excited about Jordan presenting today.
Yeah, so Jordan is a branding coach. So I thought that would be really cool for all of you guys to get some tips and tricks from Jordan on how to brand yourself as a realtor. And of course, Jordan has a program that he offers, but he has some tips and tricks for us too. So Jordan, please unmute yourself and tell us all about you.
I said, hi, Debbie. Thanks. Hi, Ray. Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. Uh, so really what it is, a little bit about myself is that I'm a real estate investor for the past 8 or 9 years, and I did a lot of off-market deals, and I was doing a lot of marketing on myself and spent a lot of money on marketing that really wasn't getting me the results that I wanted. So I had to kind of like really drudge through it. And not all the real estates that I worked with were, I want to say, really adept or knowledgeable into what I was trying to do. So it was tough to find the really good top-notch real estate agents in my area. So I went about doing this. I hired coaches and mentors to do real estate and marketing. And then it was only until years later, after all this trial and error and money wasted and spent on Facebook ads, that I realized how to properly market yourself so that your customers actually listen to what it is that you have to offer, as well as being able to, instead of selling them, invite them into a story to close more deals. So I took my experience and my real estate background, and I decided that because there were so many agents that were having this issue, I was going to be able to share this knowledge with them and help them get close more deals and close more sales and get more customers. So that's where my wheelhouse is. But this is also for my other businesses that I do. This works exactly the same. It's just that real estate is was my passion and my wheelhouse. So I saw the opportunity to help other real estate agents in the market.
I love it. Thanks, Jordan. Jordan, I have a really basic question to kind of kick us off, right? Like everywhere we go, we take our face with us, right? We can't take our face off. How do we embrace the fact that we are a brand walking around?
Every interaction that you're having, sometimes, and I've noticed this, you might bring a certain type of energy. Maybe you're tired. I've been to tons and tons of networking events, and I'm sure you guys have as well. And sometimes you're just not feeling up to it. But you have to kind of, I've caught myself walking in and my energy was just tired because I'm like, I haven't slept much. I've been working all week doing all these things. But you have to remember you're here and people see you for the first time, and remind yourself, what is it that you would like to see from somebody once you first see them for the first time? And maybe it'd be that big smile on your face because you seem so approachable. And that's what you want to say. Okay, well, I remember that guy. He seemed very calm and kind, and he had a big smile on his face. So I went to talk to him. And that's your, I guess, your business card before anybody even sees you or speaks to you, rather. So you always have to engage with anybody you're speaking with courteously and nicely, and be always willing to help, because if that's what you're trying to interact and do business with people, that's your so-called business card, is how you have every interaction with every person that you come across.
I love it. Jordan, how do you define a brand?
For the brand, I would say for me, it's more so the fact that if you have an encompassing, let's say in your area, you're just starting out or you're seasoned, when anybody sees you somewhere on social media or if they speak to you, they want to have be left with a feeling. So how did you, after they had an interaction with you, how did you leave that person feeling? Was it good? Was it happy? Was it excited? Was it motivated? And that's really what encompasses your brand. Obviously, you have your website and your colors and the logos that everybody loves. But the truth behind it is, how did you leave the person that interacted with your brand? How did you leave them feeling afterwards? So that's how I kind of encompass uh, the sense of a brand. Was it a good experience or a bad experience, really?
Sure. I love it. Okay, cool. What's our next step? You want me to keep asking you questions, or do you have something to present and share? What are we doing?
Yeah, I have about a little 15-minute little presentation that I want to show you
Okay.
guys. It's really inviting a customer into a story, how to sell. really by inviting customers into a store, and instead of being really pushy and those sales tactics that we don't like. And it's going to really change the paradigm of how you're thinking about selling to something completely different, where it makes the interaction super pleasant between you and your customers that everybody can use today.
Awesome. Let's kick it off, man. We'll follow your lead.
All right, no problemo. So I'm just going to I have to share my screen here. Okay, so how you want to think about this is a recent survey was done by HubSpot revealed that 97% of respondents do not trust salespeople. And everybody here, I'm pretty sure we all know what it feels like to be sold, and we know that it doesn't feel good, right? So our goal here is to take off the salesperson's hat, stop selling, and start inviting customers into a story. So if I were to say to you, for example, you have a door-to-door salesman that's here right now downstairs, ready to talk to you, how would that make you feel? That feeling that you probably would have is how most customers feel when they hear that they have to go into a sales call. It's not very good. And the reality is that we all know how it feels like to be sold to. And like I said, it doesn't feel good. We feel like there's this hidden agenda. We feel like the person's only wanting to take from us rather than to give. We feel like somebody even isn't giving us the space that we need to make up our own minds so we can decide what it is that we truly want. And I'm sure everybody's had a bad sales experience at one point or another in their life. And leave yourself thinking, like really think back to it. What was it about that experience that left you feeling gross? And this is why that feeling that you have is why so many people hate the idea of selling. And here's what hating to sell says about you. It says you're a good person. It says you're someone who doesn't want to have a secret agenda. It says that you don't want to use people and you want to give people the space that they need to make up their own minds to decide what it is that they actually want. So can you authentically represent your products without having a hidden sales agenda? The problem is, if we want to own a successful real estate business and have the financial freedom that we're all chasing, we have to sell. Or at least we used to have to sell. The answer is almost guaranteed that the salespeople that we don't like actually don't sell us. What they do instead is they invite us into a story that makes us feel like buying their product is something that makes our lives better. The salespeople that we like are interested in, they're not interested in selling the product, but they're interested in really helping us and making our lives better. They're the helpers that act more like guides as opposed to like indifferent peddlers of products, so to speak. So when you're going to be starting to go into your sales, instead of going into it as an adversarial relationship with the customers, in which it feels like you're trying to, this kind of tug of war thing that you're going through with them, we're going to transform that into a relationship where the primary interest for you is to help them resolve a problem. So the question is, how do we invite customers into a story? Good question. There are two very important characters in every story, and that is the hero and the guide. And the hero is always trying to accomplish something. He's got this challenge, this problem he's trying to overcome. And the guide is like that person who's in the back of his ear, helping him or helping her, trying to get that win. Think about like two characters in a movie you saw. For example, I don't know if everybody's seen it, but probably it's a really big one is Hunger Games. I don't know if you've all seen Hunger Games, but the main character in that story is Katniss. She's trying to save her district and survive the Hunger Games. And she comes across a guide, his name is Haymitch, who's already won the Hunger Games in the past, and he's there to help her win, right? So who are some of the guides and the heroes in movies that you've watched? And if you start thinking about it that way, you'll start to really realize, okay, that's the hero and that's the person who came to help them. In Star Wars, you have Luke Skywalker, who's super weak. He's the hero, but Yoda, being the strongest Jedi, helps him and guides him to become a strong Jedi throughout the story. So the hero is always struggling with a problem that the guide has already overcome. And the guide has faced the same challenge at one point or another that they themselves were able to overcome. We got to keep in mind, customers aren't looking for another hero. They are the heroes. They're looking for a guide. And the reasons you don't want to be the hero in the story is because the heroes are most likely weak, and the victims are the only characters that are actually weaker than the hero. So if you guys are following along, customers are subconsciously always looking for a guide, someone to come and help them. Customers are not looking for another hero. They want someone who understands them, who's proven that they not only are competent enough, but they can actually help them win, right? So when you position yourself as the guide in the story, you position yourself as a person who can actually help your customer win. That's what we want. So if you want to sell more, play the guide, invite the customer into a story. And in your sales story, you are the guide, right? Keep that. You're the guide, not the hero. You are the guide. Every hero is trying to solve a problem, and the guide is the wise old, Yoda that comes alongside to help the hero resolve that, overcome that problem. So there are two ways that you can position yourself as the guide in the customer story. And the first being you have empathy, and the second being competency. Empathy says, I understand your pain. I totally get what you're going through. Competency says, I can solve your problem. Empathy says, I have a heart, I care. Competency says, I'm strong. And when you put them together in tandem, they work together like this like super awesome 1-2 punch for sales. Okay. It's really powerful when you put those two together. So here are the 5 steps to stop selling and start inviting your customers into a story. The question is, can you really grow your business and also build healthy relationships with the people who buy your products or your services? And the answer to that is yes, you can. You absolutely can. And I'm going to introduce you to these 5 steps that are going to help you stop selling and start inviting. So the first step we're going to start with is the problem. We always start with the problem, okay? The second step is position your product, or obviously we're as real estate agents, it's your solution, your service as the solution. Then we're going to build a bridge by giving the customers a step-by-step plan how to interact with us. We're going to then create a sense of urgency by painting the stakes. And now finally, we're going to call the customers to action. We're going to invite the customer to place an order. And I say customers and products interactively. It's much easier. So don't worry. I know we're agents. The product is the house that we're selling, but we're inviting them for our solution, our service is the product. So all you have to do to grow your business is to make the customer the hero. So let's take a closer look at each one of these steps. And at the end of this, guys, I'm going to give you a free access to a PDF and a plan that you can put into action today so that you can start closing more sales by tomorrow. So stick around. So how do we invite customers into a story? Good question. It's a tough one. So first thing, we start with the problem. When you're inviting your customers into a story, you want to simply start by talking whatever it is that the problem that they have that your product solves. The only reason that anyone is ever interested in buying a product is because they have a problem that they're trying to solve. And when you talk about the problem, what you're doing is you're actually triggering the start of the buying journey for your customer. The problem is the hook. And if you've ever, we scroll through Instagram, we see all these things on social media, and we don't really stop. If you'll notice from now on, you don't really stop and pay attention to a video unless somebody says something that you're interested in. And usually that's the problem or something that you're experiencing, besides like funny memes and all that stuff. But when people are selling something in their business, you'll stop when you hear a problem that you have. And until the customer actually hears you clearly articulate the problem that they're currently dealing with, and knows that you understand that problem, they're not going to be interested in making a purchase. So remember, the problem is the hook. It creates curiosity for the customer, and they'll start to pay attention so that they can learn how to solve that problem. Second, right, we're going to position ourselves as ourselves or our product as a solution to the problem. And if you start with the problem, you've already started by inviting a customer into the story. And if you really want to sell more, here's another simple tip that you can use that even like the most seasoned sales professionals fail to use on a regular basis. And it's positioning your product and your service as a solution to the problem. All human behavior is motivated by this two-step formula, and it's really problem, solution, problem, solution. So how do we pique people's interest into our products and our services? Well, we talk about the problems that our products solve. We position ourselves as a solution to those problems. And when you position your product as a solution to the customer's problem, what happens is the perceived value of the product itself greatly increases. And when you talk with your customer, you're listening. Maybe you might not necessarily know exactly what the problem is at the beginning, but this is where active listening comes in. So when you're speaking to a potential client or a customer, you have to listen to what the connection is between the problem that they're actually talking about and an aspect of your solution or your service that you can use to solve that problem. You're trying to connect those two dots. So here, okay, well, you have a problem here. Okay, how can I go into my magic bag of tricks and figure out where it is that, okay, that's the part of my product or my service that can really help you solve that problem. So this is where active listening becomes very important. Okay, the third step is we're going to give the customers a plan. So if you only start with the problem and position your product as a solution, you have effectively made the customer the hero. But we're not done yet. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to build a bridge that your customers can walk across to get from their problem to your solution. The customer is ready to make a purchase, but they aren't going to for these two reasons. The first reason that they're not going to make a purchase is because they're afraid. So think about yourself, when you're making a purchase, you realize that there's a risk and you could potentially have a lot to lose, including your money. And the second step, or the second reason rather, is because they're confused. They're not sure how this thing between you guys is going to really work. They'll wait until the way forward actually seems clear. And the way that you'll know if you confuse somebody is they'll say, "Well, you know what, Jordan? Let me think about it. I'll get back to you." So that's when you know that the way for them is not clear. But we want to avoid all this and make it so crystal clear that they don't have any confusion. And so how do we go about building a bridge? We give them a three-step plan because humans love threes, okay? If you start giving 4 or 5 steps, it just becomes too much and it's too much for them to handle and it becomes confusing. So we want to keep it nice and simple at 3 steps. So you want to lay it out for them, this three-step plan that they need to take to get across that bridge. And when you build this mental bridge using the three-step plan from your customer's problem to your solution, many more people are going to cross that bridge and they're going to sign up for your services. The next, number 4, we want to paint the stakes. So at this point in the story here, we've been able to invite the customers into one heck of a story. We started with the problem, we've positioned our product as a solution, and we've even built a mental bridge that they can cross to get from their problem to your solution. There aren't many people who are going to stop from crossing that bridge, but we can still do even more. Okay, we can now create a sense of urgency that's going to help them understand exactly why it's so important that they actually take the steps forward to cross that bridge. There are two kinds of stakes we got to keep in mind. There's the positive stakes and the negative stakes. Here's the main question that you want to ask yourself. What can be won or lost based on whether or not your customer places an order? There's an increased sense of urgency when we paint the negative stakes. And when we paint negative stakes, what you're doing is you're mentally highlighting the danger on one side of the bridge where their problem is, and safety and reward on another. And that's what's going to cause a lot more people to understand why they need to cross that bridge to get to do business with your crossover to get to your solution. So we only answered the first part of the stakes. We had the negative side, but now we have to answer the rest of the question, uh, which was what can be won or lost, whether or not the customer places an order. And we talked about what could be lost. Now you need to talk about the points for what will be won. The customer needs to know at this point how your product or your service is going to solve their problem and make their life better. And it's not just their lives that you're making better, it's potentially their business, their family, their employees, their friends. And the way you want to think about this is, for example, if you're selling to first-time home buyers, right? I'm going to use myself as an example. I have my wife and kids, and if I were to go buy my house for the first time, I'm thinking about it as, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be so nice. I'm going to live in a nice neighborhood. But if you want to paint that picture for me, you could also say, well, imagine all of the, the memories that your kids are going to have after they grow up from living in this beautiful house. And your wife, imagine how much space she has to entertain all of her friends and her guests. And imagine that backyard of yours where you can have nice pool parties and barbecues with all your friends and your family. They're going to really enjoy it. So you see how we're painting this picture of not just how good it's going to be for you, but everyone else. And this is where we're showing them that if they do work with us, this is what their life can look like, right? So um, we can still go ahead and ask one little magical sentence to make sure that we could take it a step further so that everybody who actually has this problem can move forward to potentially solving it. And that's going to be calling the customer to action. So far we've done a great job inviting the customers to do a story, but there are probably still going to be a few people that are holding out. And there are probably going to be even a few customers who, even though they really, really have the problem that your product solves, they're not placing an order. So the final thing that you need to do to make sure that the customer is the hero, and it's huge, and it sounds obvious, but it's really huge, and still a big percentage of people and salespeople fail to do this. You'd be surprised. And that's this. Ask the customer to place an order. That's it. When you position and respect, when people respect your products, they're going to respect it a heck of a lot more when they're able to pay for it, because there's like this mutual kind of exchange of value, and people respect that a lot more. And when you give somebody something in exchange for money, it's like saying, I'll give you a product that solves your problem. And asking the sale is a natural and healthy part of a relationship. So how do you ask for the sale? And I'll just give you a quick example. As a real estate agent, it could, understand this. If you're new to doing this, it's going to feel a little unnatural at first. So one of the tips that you can do is memorize your line, practice it until it feels natural. And an example of this is, hey, I think this house is for you. Do you want to make an offer? Just practice it until it feels natural. And if you memorize that line, when you get to that part in the with the customer, you're not going to have to fumble for your words, and it's not going to be, create this awkward moment. And if your customer is struggling with a problem that you can solve and actually can afford to pay for your service, well, they're going to respect you a lot when they ask you for the sale, or when you ask them for the sale, sorry. So we're coming to the end here. If you take the 5 steps necessary to invite the customers into a store, you're going to sell a lot more products and services to grow your personal wealth, and there's no question about it. Make the customer the hero and your sales will grow. You can put all of this together and get very, very good at inviting customers into a story by using my free online sales script, and you can create your own as you go along. So if you guys want, here you go. You can download the sales script. This is the link below. You can get it right away and go ahead and download it. And it has all the 5 steps that we just went through, and you could just go ahead and fill it out. So whenever you're putting in your emails or your sales calls, you have that already done for you. Well, you did it yourself, but it's already there. So you know exactly how to approach the situation, what to say to your customers to close a lot more deals. So I just want to say thank you. That's the end of the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope there was some value you got out of this. And I want to thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. Where are we going to go next with this thing, Debbie?
Well, it's 8:30. So Jordan, I don't know if I gave you the heads up on an icebreaker question. Did we talk about that?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so Ray, do the first one, and then Jordan, you can do the second one. So we're going to go into breakout rooms right now, and spend about 10 minutes getting to know each other. The icebreaker question is intended to start the conversation with everyone. So Ray, what's the first question?
Do you think you have a brand right now?
Ooh, love that. Okay, so give me just a minute here. There we go, 4 to 5 in each. Ooh, 4. Nice.
Dropped it in the chat, guys.
Perfect. Do you think you have a brand right now? Here we go. All right, you guys. Yeah, it's a lot of juggling balls, right, when we're doing these breakout rooms and stuff. So first of all, anyone, Peggy has her hand up.
Yeah, I was in with another great group, and education is so important. So solving the problem, our job is to work with our clients and make sure that they're educated in what they're doing. So the couple here, Nikki and Jeff, are working with investors, and the investors don't know what they're doing when they're brand new. They need education. They need coaches. They need to be with the right people. They need to have a long-term goal of where they want to go. And people who are flippers, they don't have any money to begin with usually. So they're like, oh, I'll flip and make some money. Rather than when you've got the money, hold and look at all the possibilities from that angle, and then you've got to look at both sides or all sides of everything before you make a decision about what you're going to do. Education, solve somebody's problem. If what they really want to do is be financially free, work with them on how to be financially free. Because again, we don't know what interest rates are going to do in the future, but up is probably the way they're going to go. And we all have to get used to that. And I'm going to tell you again, I was in our first house, rates were 22% in 1981 and dropped all the way down over 40 years to 1%. Guess what? They're on their way back up. You don't know that the rates are going to be at 9%. So when you're looking as a flipper or an investor and you're doing your own deals, you have to take that into consideration. So what's the problem to solve? Get the right people to support you, to educate you before you make that decision and have regret. I've heard so many people, one, lost their money, or two, always regretted that they sold the property. So thank you for those.
Yeah, by the way, I
minutes.
just wanted to let everybody know that I changed my name to my email because Diana, if you want me to send you a list of what I would call critical questions for situations like that so that you can at least get some good information from people without pushing them, please just send me an email. I'd be happy to do that. I love sharing stuff like that.
All right, you guys, thank you. Jordan, thank you so much for coming today and sharing the storytelling message with us. We appreciate all your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Ray and Debbie. I appreciate it as well. You guys are awesome, doing good stuff.
Thanks,
Excellent.
Jordan. Appreciate you. And
See you next Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you so much.
bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.